This is Fios1. It's 9 o'clock.
I'm at the point where it's simple for me. Show me the money.
Making headlines on Long Island at this hour under intense pressure from lawmakers in both parties. Today, the House of Representatives is expected to vote on $9 billion in immediate aid for Superstorm Sandy. That's our top story. It's coming up. In a bloody night for the New York City Police Department, multiple officers shot, all within 60 minutes. We'll have the latest on the gunfights just ahead. Plus, we're 4 days into the new year, so let the fitness trends begin. Coming up, we'll show you how to take your New Year's resolutions to new heights. Happy Friday, Long Island. Fios1 Sunrise begins right now.
Fios1 News Sunrise.
Good morning and welcome to Fios1 Sunrise on this Friday morning. I'm CJ Papa. So glad you could join us. We'll get to our top stories in just a moment, but first a quick check of your Friday morning weather with Brian Fitzgerald. Brian, how you doing today?
Well, CJ, thanks so much. Good morning to you. Good morning, everybody. Another cold start to the day. We're seeing temperatures which are ranging throughout the 20s and 30s, and you factor in the wind. It just makes it feel like a chilly start to the day. We'll be dry through this afternoon. The sunshine comes back into place as well. And finally, by the time we start getting into later in the weekend and early next week, we start to get a flow coming into the region that's going to allow for the temperatures to get a little bit milder. We'll talk about the chance of any storms on the horizon. Plus, we've got to look at your 5-day forecast. Stay with us this morning. That's all coming up.
Following a setback earlier this week, Congress is expected to vote today on a borrowing plan that would increase Sandy-related disaster aid by more than $9 billion. Fios1's Ron Lee is in Long Beach with more.
CJ, good morning. Some relief for Sandy victims potentially on the horizon. By the end of the day today, Congress is expected to approve a $9.7 billion increase in funding to the National Flood Insurance Program.
Without it, it could take a lot longer for more than 115,000 Sandy victims to receive payment for flood insurance claims. FEMA says without that infusion of money, the flood insurance program would run out of cash by next week. Governor Andrew Cuomo and other Northeast lawmakers have complained that it is taking Congress too long to approve disaster relief. Governor Cuomo is still furious that a vote on a full $60 billion Sandy aid package was scrapped Wednesday at the last minute.
And if you look at the time of response, this is incredibly slow compared to past disasters. So I think it's inexcusable on every level.
Today's vote, meantime, is just the first step. The next votes are set for January 15th. One is an $18 billion basic aid bill. The other, a $33 billion amendment that contains funding for construction and other projects to prevent future storm damage.
Despite his intense criticism of Congress, Governor Andrew Cuomo says he applauds the way that local representatives have handled themselves in the wake of Hurricane Sandy. In Long Beach, Ron Lee, Fios1 News.
Actions speak louder than words, and Governor Cuomo is telling the Republican House leadership to put your money where your mouth is and cut the check. Cuomo still has his doubts that the House will finally vote on Sandy relief aid.
I'm at the point where it's simple for me. Show me the money, because I've heard a lot of things. And until I see the cash, I'm going to reserve judgment, because many of the things that have been said never happened.
The governor goes on to say that in many ways, the Republican leaders violated their oath of office. The House now plans to approve a $9 billion flood insurance proposal to help pay claims by residents and businesses. A panel put together by Governor Cuomo to strengthen preparation for the next big storm has announced their recommendations. If you were one of the many people who were stuck for hours and for days without gas, the panel is suggesting a state fuel reserve and generators at gas stations. They're also recommending tougher building codes, citizen training, and many other emergency provisions. Now, the governor warned costs will be a big obstacle, but he says he'll recommend some ideas in his State of the State address next week. Well, more than 2 months have gone by since Superstorm Sandy ravaged Long Island. Those who suffered significant damage are still waiting for their insurance companies to pay out. A roundtable discussion was held by local leaders and elected officials in an effort to get homeowners like Veronica Acosta the money she feels she deserves.
I have a son that asks me on a daily basis, Mommy, when can we go home? And I have to put my big smile and say we're almost there. And if you look around, we're not.
This is about people's lives. This is not just about brick and mortar. It's about restoring that brick and mortar so people can go on with their lives.
Well, local officials and state lawmakers gathered in Freeport to discuss situations like Veronica's and, of course, many others in their districts to find ways to get these insurance companies to pay out. The superstorm prompted an outpouring of generosity from across the nation. $400 million worth. The donations made to charities were audited by the state attorney general, and donations to the Red Cross topped the list.
It's all been great and heartwarming to see, especially, being a Long Islander and, having family and friends who've been impacted by Superstorm Sandy. Just knowing that people are coming together at a time like this still is a wonderful thing.
Other nonprofits who brought in the big bucks were the Robin Hood Foundation, the Mayor's Fund to Advance New York City, the Empire State Relief Fund, and the Salvation Army. Donors will soon be able to log on to the Attorney General's website to see how those groups and 83 others say they intend to spend that money. Well, the best and worst of both worlds, the Strap Hangers campaign says Superstorm Sandy has some good times and bad times. Results of a survey released by the advocacy group says the storm tops its 2012 best list because transit rebounded so quickly that New Yorkers considered it a near miracle. Sandy also heads the worst list. Many parts of the subways were flooded and the MTA suffered $5 billion in damage.
Good morning, I'm meteorologist Brian Fitzgerald, and happy Friday, everyone. We've made it to the end of the work week, and we continue with our dry conditions outside. But the one thing that hasn't changed, the chilly temperatures. So do get ready to bundle yourself up as you step outside the door this morning. We've got some cool air around. In fact, visibilities are doing well, as we've spoken about. No rain, no snow in the forecast at this point, and we expect sunshine into this afternoon. So nice dry conditions on the roadways, but it is chilly, okay? We're sitting at around 30 degrees in Comac, 27 in Shirley, 34 in Bayville, and 30 in Oceanside. And of course, we do have a little bit of a breeze, up to 15 miles per hour at times, and that gives us the wind chill values. And that's been a typical thing we've seen over the past couple mornings, and most areas feel with the wind factored in like they're in the 20s this morning. So here's a wider satellite radar picture. There's been some lake effect snow showers across upstate New York. A few of those have actually made it into northwestern New Jersey, but they're dissipating very quickly, so that's not going to reach us. Heading out to the bus stop, around 27 to 33 degrees, so it's a cold start to the day, but dry. Remains chilly this afternoon, about 34 to 37. It's not overly a mild day, but a little bit better than yesterday was. But we do have the breeze. Tonight, we drop to around 26. It's mostly clear. Tomorrow, mostly sunny. We'll be at about 38. I've got much more of your weather just ahead.
A bloody night for the NYPD. 3 officers have been wounded in 2 separate shooting incidents in Brooklyn and the Bronx. Officers Lucas Kazicki and Michael LeVay have been shot at a subway station in Brooklyn. Now, police say a man shot the 2 plainclothes officers after the officers confronted him. Officer Kazicki was hit 3 times. Officer LeVay was struck in the lower back, but his vest stopped the bullet. He returned fire, killing the suspect. And just an hour earlier, NYPD officer Juan Pichardo was working in his family's car dealership in the Bronx when 2 men tried to rob the place. Now, he was shot in the thigh before he subdued one of the men. 3 other suspects were also arrested. The officers in both shootings are expected to survive. A Central Iceland man accused of brutally killing his longtime friend and stuffing his body in a closet had his day in court.
This defendant in his own home killed Jason Campbell by striking him once in the neck with an axe.
He's a longtime resident of Suffolk County that lives with his mother. I have nothing else to say.
A judge ordered Aston Bart held without bail. Barth had 2 robbery convictions, the most recent an attempted bank robbery in Central Iceland in which he dressed in his mother's clothes. His family has reported he suffers from mental illness. None of them were present in the courtroom. The receipts you receive from stores seem harmless enough, but they can contain a harmful cancer-causing chemical. That's why Suffolk County Executive Steve Bellone signed a new measure into law banning the use of a substance called BPA in paper used by businesses. Now, BPA is made from a sex hormone, and it has been linked to several cancers as well as infertility.
So bisphenol A is a chemical a dangerous chemical that should not be used in and around food, or we shouldn't have any connection with it with the largest organ, which is our skin.
The Federal Centers for Disease Control found that retail workers are 28% more likely than average adults to have BPA in their systems. And still to come on Verizon's Fios1 News, a special visitor comes to Newtown as the students of Sandy Hook return to the classroom. Stay with us.
And time now to get a check on our traffic conditions. Let's get right down to the maps and show you what's happening. We begin in Queens with an accident that has blocked the left lane on the Jackie Robinson Parkway eastbound at Metropolitan Avenue. That's exit 6. Stop-and-go traffic from the Union Turnpike, and that's going to cause problems all the way to exit 5, so do be aware of that. Other issues going on in Syosset. This incident has since been cleared, but there's still some slowdowns there. An accident overnight actually hit a fire hydrant, and that's been causing icing on the roadway. So they had that blocked in both directions on 25A. Now they're just seeing some slowdowns because of that. The speed limit has been reduced, but they're back open there. Long Island Expressway, as you're heading through Suffolk County, continuing to move along fairly decently, but the volume builds as you continue to head westbound, so be aware of that. Southern State Parkway seeing some heavier traffic there, as well as the LIE as you're heading through Queens. The LIRR is running on or close to schedule. We're opening on time at the airports. Remember to log on to our website, Fios1NewsLI.com, for all the latest traffic information. If you can't join us on air, join us online.
Fios1, the one place for everything on our island.